Tonight, we take a closer look at a pivotal new peace proposal for Gaza, reportedly shaped behind closed doors by former U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This plan has quickly become the center of global attention, with leaders and citizens alike wondering if it could finally bring an end to years of bloodshed and uncertainty. At its core, the plan calls for a comprehensive ceasefire, an immediate halt to all hostilities, in exchange for significant and often controversial concessions from both Hamas and Israel. These concessions are designed to address long-standing grievances and security concerns on both sides. But it's not just about stopping the fighting. The proposal is a multi-stage blueprint, aiming to end the war, secure the release of hostages, and open Gaza's borders to a surge of humanitarian aid. The hope is to alleviate the suffering of civilians and lay the groundwork for a more stable future. The world is watching with bated breath to see if Hamas will accept these terms, fully aware that this decision could either open a new chapter of peace or trigger another devastating round of violence. The plan also details a vision for how Gaza would be governed and rebuilt in the aftermath, aiming for lasting peace and stability despite decades of deep mistrust and repeated setbacks. Yet, reactions from the international community are sharply divided. Some world leaders have voiced strong support, seeing this as a rare opportunity for progress in a region long plagued by conflict. But key Palestinian groups remain deeply skeptical, with many outright rejecting the plan, arguing that it fails to address core issues of sovereignty and justice. The stakes could not be higher for every family in Gaza and Israel, as ordinary people on both sides continue to bear the brunt of the conflict and yearn for a sense of normalcy and safety. This proposal is just the latest in a long line of peace attempts, each one raising hopes only to be dashed by renewed violence. The question remains, will this plan finally break the cycle? For those living through the conflict, even a glimmer of hope can make a world of difference, offering a brief respite from fear and uncertainty. Yet history is littered with failed plans and broken promises, leaving many skeptical that real change is possible this time. As the world holds its breath, everyone waits for an answer, hoping that this time the outcome will be different. While Hamas has flatly rejected the plan, calling it one-sided and dismissive of Palestinian rights. Their main objection, the demand for total disarmament, which they see as surrendering their only means of resistance. Immediate release of all hostages, without phased Israeli concessions, is another sticking point. Hamas also opposes an international stabilization force, viewing it as foreign occupation under another name. Other Palestinian factions, like Islamic Jihad, echo these concerns, insisting any real peace must guarantee an end to occupation and a path to statehood. They argue the plan manages conflict for Israel's benefit, not true peace. Without addressing core issues like the blockade and settlements, they see the proposal as unacceptable. Netanyahu's government has accepted the plan in principle, but internal divisions threaten its implementation. Far-right coalition partners fiercely oppose any steps toward a Palestinian state and reject giving the Palestinian Authority a role in Gaza. Netanyahu faces intense pressure. International calls for compromise clash with domestic demands for hardline security. Israel's commitments are conditional. Every step depends on Hamas's actions, especially disarmament and hostage release. The plan's promises are fragile, with skepticism on both sides about true intentions. Political survival, not just peace, is at stake for Israel's leadership. The heart of the plan is a trade. Hamas disarms, fighting stops, and Gaza begins to rebuild with international aid. A transitional board of peace, led by figures like Trump and Tony Blair, would oversee Gaza's recovery and governance. The long-term goal is for a reformed Palestinian Authority to take over, but that's a big if. Hostage and prisoner exchanges are phased, with each step tied to the other side's compliance. Israeli troop withdrawals would happen in stages, But Israel insists on a security buffer along Gaza's border. Each phase is conditional, making the process fragile and easily derailed. Major reconstruction funds are withheld until disarmament is verified. Trust is in short supply, and a single dispute could collapse the entire deal. The plan relies heavily on international involvement, especially a proposed international stabilization force to keep the peace in Gaza. Arab states like Egypt, Qatar, and the UAE are pressuring Hamas to accept, offering political cover and financial aid for reconstruction. A board of peace, co-chaired by Trump and Blair, would oversee the transition, aiming to lend credibility and momentum. Success depends on the Palestinian Authority's ability to reform and govern effectively. International pledges of aid and accountability are critical. If they falter, so does the plan. The world isn't just watching. It's a key player in whether this peace effort succeeds or fails. The stakes for regional stability and humanitarian relief are immense. The urgency of this plan is driven by Gaza's dire humanitarian crisis, a situation that grows more desperate with each passing day. The world watches as the humanitarian needs escalate, and the people of Gaza face unimaginable hardship. War has left tens of thousands dead, countless more wounded, and forced families from their homes. Basic necessities like clean water, food, and medical supplies are in critically short supply, making daily survival a constant struggle. Many Gazans, exhausted and desperate after months of conflict, would accept almost any deal that promises a ceasefire, even if it's flawed or uncertain. The longing for peace outweighs doubts about the future. For countless families, the instinct to survive now outweighs politics or ideology. Their focus is on protecting loved ones and finding safety, even if only for a short while. "We just want to live," one resident says, echoing a widespread sentiment that resonates throughout Gaza's battered communities. Yet there's deep wariness. Many fear the plan is designed for Israel's benefit and could bring a new form of occupation or control rather than true freedom. Gazans are caught between the urgent need for immediate survival and the enduring dream of freedom, dignity, and a better future for their children. Their voices are often sidelined in international discussions, but they bear the brunt of every decision made far from their homes. The pressure on leaders to end the violence and deliver relief is immense, as the world demands action and accountability. But hope is tempered by hard-earned skepticism, as Gazans wonder if true peace and recovery are really within reach. Even if both sides were to reach a historic agreement on paper, deep mistrust and complex political constraints on both sides make actual implementation nearly impossible. Years of broken promises and failed negotiations have left scars that are not easily healed, and every new attempt is haunted by the ghosts of past disappointments. Hamas, for its part, won't disarm without ironclad guarantees of statehood, a clear path to sovereignty, and a definitive end to occupation. Anything less is seen as a betrayal of their cause and their people. Meanwhile, Israel refuses to withdraw or make major concessions without verified, irreversible disarmament from Hamas, fearing renewed attacks if security is compromised. Prime Minister Netanyahu faces constant threats from his far-right coalition partners, who warn that any significant concession could topple his government and spark political chaos. On the other side, Hamas risks losing all credibility and support among its base if it's perceived as surrendering or making too many compromises to Israel. The plan's phased, conditional structure is inherently fragile. Any dispute, delay, or act of violence could easily derail the entire process, sending both sides back to square one. Key issues, such as the final status of a Palestinian state, the fate of Jerusalem, and the borders, remain vague and unresolved, leaving the door wide open for future conflict and misunderstanding. The next critical milestone is Hamas's official response to the proposal, but so far, their public stance remains negative, casting a shadow over any hope for progress. Without Hamas's buy-in and genuine participation, the plan is essentially dead on arrival, and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza only deepens with each passing day. A true breakthrough could finally end the war and bring relief to millions. But failure means more devastation, more shattered lives, and a cycle of violence that continues unchecked. For now, the path to peace remains uncertain, fraught with danger, and overshadowed by the weight of history and the fears of what the future may hold.